So everybody, welcome to this inaugural episode of SWOT About Hemp. And my co-buddy here is Joseph Hickey from Kentucky. I'm Charles Kovess from Melbourne, Australia. So we've got Australia and Kentucky. Hello, Joe. How are you going?
Good. How's everything down under?
Yeah, way down under. And as you know, we have a big challenge deciding what time we're going to meet because we are 16 hours apart. You're 16 hours behind, but I like to think that I'm 8 hours. In fact, I'm 16 hours ahead. You're way behind in Kentucky.
Right, exactly.
So
Well, you know what Mark Twain said about Kentucky?
no,
He said, when I die, I hope I'm in Kentucky because everything happens years later there.
that's like
So in our case, it's hours later.
that's like Queensland, where during summer, Melbourne was in the state of Victoria. We have daylight saving, and there's New South Wales, but Queensland decided not to because it would change the weather if they went to daylight saving. And in the south, we say Queensland is 1 hour and 40 years behind.
That's funny.
So what this show is about is this wonderful hemp SWOT report. Challenges, and that's what Joe and I have both printed it out.
Yeah.
Challenges and chances for hemp, published a couple of months ago, and we thought this would be value to people with a lot of knowledge about hemp and no knowledge about industrial hemp or hemp. And this report, this fantastic report of 44 pages, has been put together by Hemp Today, Kurt Reha. Congratulations to him, and Joseph Carringer from the Canna Markets Group. And it was sponsored by Green Wave. This report is fantastic, and it's available from Hemp Today. And we're going to have a conversation for about 20 minutes about various aspects of the recommendations of this report of what the industrial hemp scene needs globally, not just in Kentucky or in Australia, but globally. Is that a fair?
And we should tell them that they can get the report by going on to the FIHO. It's the Federation of International Hemp Organizations, FIHO. Is it com or org? Org, and then go to pledge. And when you sign the pledge, which basically says you'll use industrial hemp, when it's available and it's economically, viable. So if you go on and sign up, you'll automatically get this SWOT report sent to you for free. It's a $79 report. What do they charge?
I think it's $99 US.
99. Yeah, so you save $100 and learn a lot about hemp, and it's a great report.
Excellent. So it's fiho.org. Click on the pledge tab, take the pledge, and you'll get this free report. So, Joe, we're going to ideally do this every couple of weeks, I reckon, maybe every week. We'll just see how our diaries connect.
Work out.
And now, of course, because these recordings will be easily accessible, you can look at these when you have time. So before we go in, and before we go into these 10 recommendations and unpack them and see where that leads for the industry, we will have a conversation about what's happening in hemp. So there's been some big news in America about hemp.
Well, the other thing, SWOT, a lot of people may not understand what the SWOT means, but it's strengths for the industry, weakness for the industry, opportunities for the industry, and the threats for the industry. So that's what we're looking at. And I think right now, Charles, this is kind of a good inaugural ration of the podcast because of the stuff that's happening in the United States in the last, week and a half, 2 weeks. Mitch McConnell stuck a rider into the funding bill, the must-pass federal funding bill that basically is going to decimate a portion of the industrial hemp industry. small portion, but still, if the farmers are making money, they still shouldn't be, cut out of of the of the market because of the big boys. So what happened is he stuck a rider in or an amendment onto the bill that said that hemp products couldn't have more than zero point 0.4 milligrams of THC in it, and that is just like 0.3% of is what's in the farm bill. So this is like 10 times almost smaller than that, if not even more than that. But it does, what it's going to do is going to kill the hemp industry, the THC hemp that farmers are growing. And the argument that we're getting is from, the industries, the two industries that they're having issues with is one is the alcohol industry, because they see their bottom line has kind of been flat for the last few years, and like for these seltzer waters and gummies and stuff have gone up 400, 500, 600%, while the alcohol people are looking at that going, you know. So I think what's happened is they paid a lot of money to the lobbyists to get Mitch McConnell and some of the other guys to allow this to get passed through, because this saves their bottom line. And it also helps the marijuana people, because the marijuana people are having to go through a lot more hoops regarding taxes and what their fees that they have to pay, and all the hoops they have to go through for medical marijuana. And so it's costing them more money to do it than these industrial hemp farmers that that can do it a lot cheaper. And so I think that's part of it too, is you're getting a jerk knee reaction from the medical, or I'll call it corporate marijuana.
Yes,
So
that's interesting. It's lovely how you wonder why do politicians do certain things, and we just have to remember those two Latin words, qui bono. It's a wonderful phrase, qui bono, which means who benefits.
right, yeah,
And so Mitch
yeah, that's
McConnell, so it was the alcohol industry who was suffering, if you like, from the concept of hemp being used as hemp being used as intoxicants. The phrase was hemp intoxicants, which to some degree is an oxymoron. Those two concepts shouldn't be standing together, because hemp is supposed to be non-intoxicating. And indeed, the question is whether this is a good decision or a bad decision. And you say it's going to hurt a small proportion, but what's your overall view of this new legislation?
well. I mean, the legislation hadn't changed. I mean, the farm bill is still the farm bill. Basically, what he did, he just threw a monkey wrench into the CBD portion, or the cannabinoid portion of the hemp bill. And the reason he did it, Charles, is because when Mitch first came in, and when I first came in too, when the bill was passed, it was just for fiber and grain, and or that was the intent, because nobody really knew much about, the Stanley brothers were doing that Charlotte's Web that was helping Charlotte Figge, that was having all those seizures. And so that's kind of got the ball rolling as far as starting to talk about hemp for the cannabinoid portions of it. And so that's how it kind of started. And what's happened now is that we've got these mad scientists, I guess, that are taking like the CBD and somehow synthetically turning it into THC, and all these like D8, I think, is a
Yes,
synthesized.
delta 8. So they say, well, this is not a drug because it comes from hemp. That's
Yeah,
the clever move.
right. Well, and the only difference, what people don't understand, is just a matter of it's like near beer and whiskey. Near beer might have a 0.5% alcohol, and some whiskeys may have 87% alcohol.
Hmm.
And somehow, it's what was the guy's name? It was Small, I think, it was a scientist that came up with the point three, and he said it wasn't for. It was just for scientific lineation between or delineation between what they considered high, what something that would get you high versus something that wouldn't. But it wasn't a scientific thing. It was just to keep to have a placeholder. So they took what that placeholder was and then took it as scientific evidence. And somebody could take a point 0.3 THC and it wouldn't do anything for you.
Hmm.
But you concentrate it and keep the whole thing was like it was almost smoke and mirrors because you can still take THC that's by volume, still zero point 0.3, and you just have more of the volume in there that can get
Yes.
you to 3 or 4 or 5 milligrams, and some of them 10 milligrams. But it's so confusing. I can see how the legislators have a hard time trying to figure out where to go on this because it's just such a you know there's so many moving parts and stuff that's happened.
Yes. Yes.
So
And it's problematic because confusion means that politicians won't make good decisions. And it is confusing, and what we're trying to do and what we will do through SWOT About Hemp is help you, the dear viewers, um, understand more clearly what this game is about, what hemp is about compared to cannabis. Now, the other important point to note is that this is American legislation. It doesn't apply to anywhere
right,
else in the
right.
world. And it's relevant to, in the 10 recommendations of the SWOT report, recommendation number 5 is to standardize global regulations. Now, the rest of the world doesn't want this particular regulation because 0.04% of THC can cause problems when an industrial hemp crop is defined in most countries now as less than 1% THC. So, but the recommendation, I'll quote from the SWOT report for everyone: advocate for harmonized THC thresholds and consistent licensing requirements to facilitate international trade and attract investment. Simplified regulatory frameworks enable cross-border collaboration and market access. And that's true. So in the situation that hemp is in, where it's a cottage industry globally, and you and I, Joe, through FIHO, the Federation of International Hemp Organizations, and our respective companies, we want this industry to grow. We want this industry to become a major, major player. And investors are not keen on going into an environment where the rules keep changing. Is that your experience?
Yeah, well, and it's like why I think it's important to look at each of these countries is like Canada's got a great way of handling this. I met with the what's he's the guy, he's like the Health Canada is over top, was over the cannabinoid part of it, and I asked the head of the organization. I said, "How do y'all treat hemp? How do you deal with it?" And he says, "Well, we used to go in and test the crop and everything else." He said, "But right now, if a farmer comes in and shows us a receipt that he's planting certified seed, we don't even go out there and mess with him because we know, he's not a criminal. He's not trying to do anything. He doesn't want to lose his farm. But anyway, so as long as you've got your permit, I mean your receipt for your seed, then they don't bother you. And I said, well, what do you do if they want to grow for CBD? And he said if they want to sell their crop for the cannabinoid portions of it, he said they can do that, but they have to sell it to a licensed processor. They can't process it themselves. They have to give it to a licensed processor. So, they eliminate. Think of here in the United States, if you grow hemp, the state has to send somebody out there and test it to make sure it's below 0.3.
And a similar situation happens in Australia and a number of other countries.
Yeah, but think of how much money is being wasted by doing all this stuff. In Canada, it's smart. They just say, we're not going to test.
And your point with the licensed processors is that the mad scientists aren't allowed to work at the licensed, aren't able to do their mad science at the licensed processors. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then here in Kentucky also, if you've got a marijuana license, you can grow marijuana that's 35% THC, and you're allowed to concentrate it up to 70%. And there's no, they don't come in before you harvest and test your crop. They don't test it until, it's what's the word, harmonized, where they just take a sample of the harvested crop. But now if you go to the industrial hemp farmers, they test it before, and if it's above 0.3, you have the chance of having the crop destroyed. And another thing the guy in Canada said, we don't care if it goes above 0.3. He said, because we know that the soil and the climate conditions can affect the THC levels. And he said, but, even if it goes to 0.8 or 1%, he said, we don't care because we know that it's going to be a grain crop or it's going to be a fiber crop. So that's what's good about looking at different countries and how they're doing it. Let's pick out the best rules out of everywhere and trying to harmonize with them. To me, that makes the most sense.
Yes. And, one of the big pictures of the big idea for investors, so hopefully there are investors watching our conversation, Joe, and SWOT About Hemp and all of the conversations that we have, so that they get a deeper understanding. And here, for an investor, here's the proposition that I put. And in your own life, you look at it, you and I are a similar age. We've been around, how long? I've been involved heavily with hemp for 13 years. How long have you been involved?
I think it's 32.
32 years.
32 years.
That's wonderful. And in fact, the company that I'm the managing director of, Textile and Composite Industries, was started by Adrian Clark, who
I knew Adrian.
You knew, and he went to Kentucky in 1996. So that was 29 years ago.
Yeah. Dang, that's right. That was when Woody planted the hemp seeds.
Yes. And were you into hemp before 1996?
Oh yeah, no, I found the Kentucky Hemp Growers Co-op in an old newspaper back in 93.
1993, very good. So 32 years. Yeah. That's very good.
Yep.
And you know what? And Adrian started this company, Textile and Composite, in 1994. And 1993 is also relevant because I left my legal career in 1993 to change career to become a professional speaker. So 1993 for you and I, there you are. That's a nice link between us.
Great, that's good.
So we're fast running out of time for this first session, but we've already talked about one of the crucial recommendations of the SWOT report, which is to understand what the best regulatory regime is. And, we can have different regulations. However, understanding what a good regulation is and what a bad regulation is important. To say, no, don't to have then that argument with local regulators, local country regulators, to say, listen, follow Canada on this point. It's working well. And that's a good strategy to use. Would you agree?
Well, absolutely.
So,
Harmonizing all this is going to make the industry go. It's going to change the trajectory of the industry because everybody's going to be singing off the same song sheets. And once we get doing that, this industry is going to be able to take off. It'll be a seamless deal if we can get all these countries to agree that hemp is going to be a great new agricultural crop. I think it's going to be like a new green revolution.
yes, I agree. And the FIHO vision, here we are in November 2025. Globally, there's about 500,000 hectares, so that's 1.2 million acres of hemp growing. And our vision for FIHO, as we know, is to have 10 million hectares or 25 million acres of hemp growing by 2030. So the pledge, so this whole explosive opportunity for hemp with the problems that it can solve, you and I both can see how big hemp can become. Our job is to spread the word.
And I think to let people understand the idea behind the pledge, it basically says that these industries, when their whatever their specs are, to quality, price, and the supply chain, once all that's met, the industry say, okay, well, I'll buy it. So that they're just signing a pledge that's basically laying the groundwork for the farmers and the processors to begin building this industry because, if the industry stands behind it, because we've always been in that chicken and egg situation. The farmers aren't going to grow it unless they can sell it. The processor isn't going to spend millions of dollars on equipment if he doesn't have farmers in the market. And the market's not going to do it unless they can be guaranteed a supply chain quality and quantity. So by signing the pledge, it doesn't cost the companies anything, but it gives assurances to the farmers that if they do that, these guys are behind us. So that's the thought behind the pledge.
Well put, Joe. Chicken egg. We have the chicken egg situation, and from our regular conversations that we're going to have in SWOT About Hemp, we are going to help you, dear viewers, get more and more excited about why hemp is such a wonderful solution, so that we drive market demand. Because the fastest way to have this industry grow is to drive market demand, and we will explore some of the solutions. These are the opportunities in the SWOT: strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats. These are the opportunities. So we will help you do that. All right, Joe. Wonderful to speak with you.
It's always great to hang out with you, Charles.
Likewise.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We will have fun. There's no point not having fun. And well done on your 32 years in hemp. And I'm the beneficiary of what Adrian Clark learned at a similar time to you. So it's wonderful to be connected to you.
Great. Well, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to our next podcast next week.
Terrific. Thanks, Joe. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.